So, so the idea was to just give a name and give faces and the scene to the whole what I'm going to speak about, because I'm going to talk about perceptions of a river and perception of river as life and the idea of floods and politics and commerce. I begin by quoting from a Sanskrit invocatory verse. Nitya Godavari Snana Punya Doyo Mahamatiha Smaram Angleya Desiyam Cottanam Tam Bhagiratam. It's translated as, in spite of his being an Englishman, I invoke him. People of the Delta keep invoking him, the Bhagirata, every day through this shloka, which gives as much merit, punya, as a bath in river Godavari every day, unquote. This invocatory verse is in memory of the so-called Delta Shilpi Sir Arthur Cotton, from a booklet which was brought out by what is called the Sir Arthur Cotton 200th Anniversary Committee, Dhauleshwaram, on 15th May 2003, which I got in the course of my travels to Godavari. The booklet then goes on to give a life sketch of the Telugu Devara Cotton Dura, that is Telugu god Sir Cotton. The intent behind starting with this will be clear as I go on. But before proceeding further, let me locate myself so that it might be easier to get a context as to why I'm here and saying what I'm saying. What I present today essentially comes from my engagement with Godavari since the last now almost 8 years, and if you add to the term name Godavari, it should go further much longer, because the first hostel I lived in was the Godavari hostel in JNU, and I can see many of my friends here from the hostel, then hostel friends. And I've been writing since 2006 in academic journals and newspapers on the Godavari and Polavaram multi-purpose project coming up in Andhra Pradesh on Godavari. And that has led to a book that I recently completed, which is called When Godavari Comes, People's History of a River, which should be brought out by Penguin hopefully this year. So here today I thought it relevant to focus on one of the ideas of river as a life principle. And crucial to that life principle is a prime attribute, namely seasonal flooding, a trait characteristic of Godavari like many other river systems. And it is around this idea that I've spent some time throughout my travels to Godavari. And at one point in the flooding context, not in Godavari but in Rayalaseema, the Kurnool floods that happened in 2009. And what I've spent some time on, this life principle, did not originate in my mind, but came essentially from a community or communities who live on, by, along Godavari. Much later, through secondary literature, I was to find echoes in other cultures that some scholars have written about regarding the phenomenon of seasonal flooding, or also unseasonal flooding for that matter. So the first time I received the knowledge of a river as not just a living system, but a living feminine person, almost like an extended family, was in a village in Warangal district of Andhra Pradesh. I'll come to that in a while. So it follows from that point in 2004 basically that I got interested in language, semantics, and people's history of the idea of a river and flooding. I am interested in social history of a river as a life system and in politics that redefines it. And it is from this angle that I wish to focus on the river for today's talk. The river is Godavari. I might mention Krishna in the course of my paper, but I'm more comfortable with Godavari, and being one of the most contested rivers in Andhra Pradesh today, in AP, I hope I shall be pardoned for zooming in on Godavari. But at a larger level, though the name is to identify a specific locale or location, it is relevant to understanding in general rivers from state and politics point of view and from the worldview of people by a river system. I met Godavari as a feminine presence, as I have noted earlier, at Guttala Gangaram village by the home of fisherman Muthu Ramarao, whom you saw, and his wife Surakka. That was in 2004. In their one statement, Godavari వచ్చినప్పుడు, Godavari వస్తే ఊరు వెళ్ళిపోతాము. I found the metaphor. She comes, when she came, if she comes, etc. And ever since I began to see the river that does not flood. People's understanding is simple yet profound, like the depth of river Godavari, a truthful evoking of a larger life system principle of permanent flows. It presents the true depth of meaning of life and its interconnectedness. The state's perception is as shallow as I've noted throughout my travels from 2006 to 2010 as surface water, with convoluted mathematics created over it to generate uses that will make the river a paying proposition. It is the idea of ownership and possession. And like all things in life, the moment an idea of possession comes in, it brings with it conflict and power, as also the ideas of wasting into sea, of that which could have been possessed, controlled, and manipulated to stop on command and give dividends on expenditure when it is released as a ration. The language of policymakers, state technocrats is that of death, in terms of terms just such as dead storage, so many cusecs and TMC of shares and portions. It looks at consumption in commodity terms. For people, there is no dead storage. The river flows its course. Godavari must meet the sea. ఎన్ని బ్యారేజ్లు కట్టినా గోదావరి సముద్రానికి వెళ్లాల్సిందే. అది ప్రకృతి ధర్మం. No matter how many barrages are built, Godavari must go to the sea. That is the law of nature. So many barrages were built. Has it stopped the river from meeting her sea? This is what a fisherman Satyanarayana told me in Kobbari Chettapeta village in East Godavari district. So there is no consumption but use of a river, not as a one-term mammoth exploitation, but over centuries of interface and for sustaining lives and basic livelihoods. In popular discourse, Godavari does not flood. The Telugu language has the term Varadalu for it. That is called floods in Telugu. But these communities call it Ostundi, she comes. They treat it as a natural event or a non-event. For them, it is a natural phenomenon with its relevance to life. References to past coming are typically prefixed by the year of that coming. That is, Yenabai Aru Godavari, 1986 Godavari, 1986 when she came in spate. In mainstream history, the river has had massive flooding ever so often. In the people's history of river, she comes and leaves. Yet these categories are not half as simplistic or romantic in a simplistic sense, as life itself is not for most of the tribal, Dalit and marginalized groups of these three districts, East Godavari, West Godavari and Khammam, which are the regions that I have worked in. In the present context especially, many of the people I refer to, the people you saw here, are going to be losing their lands, forests and livelihoods in the wake of the dam itself, which may be one large event in the course of their many historic life negotiations. So perceptions of flooding and floods shows as to how a structure is created by politics and commerce. The Anicut on Godavari, initially touted as being constructed and as an answer to control of flood and addressing famine, did not really control floods. There were two kinds of images of Sir Arthur Cotton, who built the Anicut at Dhauleshwaram. At the popular level as the Messiah, restraining the wild river, controlling floods and famine. And at the government and international level, he was justifying a plan that he had made, urging investments and promising return on investment. There was a level of myth-making as well in language and idioms used. And I'm looking at continuities today. The late Y.S. Rajashekhar Reddy, as Sir Arthur Cotton, was the most prevalent metaphor in Andhra Pradesh in his times. He was popularized both as Arthur Cotton reincarnate as well as Bhagirath, the Hindu mythical sage. On a lighter vein, it is possible to think of YSR as Cotton reincarnate in terms of the language used in his time on rivers, the Messiah quality, and quite by pure coincidence, a Christian ethic. Strangely, in YSR's case, both Christian and Hindu myth-making happened around the utilization of Godavari, especially the irrigation projects, 48 in number and no less, when he became CM. But more than physical sense of reincarnation, it was a re-invoking of a colonial thought process, which is interesting. I am also focusing on a region and a state here based on my own studies and field work there. The language of mainstream power politics in Andhra Pradesh is essentially a deltaic language, where even YSR, though he was from Rayalaseema, which is a relatively dry belt, internalized the deltaic idea of a river which follows from the construction of the Anicut in colonial times. The language and idiom from a history of river access. There is never enough water for them. The more water they get, the better. Incidentally, a WUA, that is Water Users Association member from Rayalaseema, in the Nagarjuna Sagar project command area told me, I quote, not in Telugu but in English, I translated, if you see a canal being dug, be assured there is a Costa Jilla guy coming there to settle down. Wherever they see water, they'll come in and bring in more people from their area. All the canal building contractors are from there. They have settled down in all the command areas, be it Rayalaseema or Godavari or Krishna. They are crazy after water, unquote. And this comes from, there's truth in this saying because this comes essentially from the idea of being used to a permanent facility that was created for them in the colonial period, irrigating their fields that the Anicut and its network of canals did for them. So the political language is built from a history of river water access in AP. The mainstream political history of post-independence Andhra Pradesh has never been one of the dry land or of the forests. And it is two rivers, essentially Godavari and Krishna, that have defined politics and nature of economic development in this post-independent state, born in 1956 in relative turmoil. The coastal delta has also been a region with global linkage, even during the colonial period, which has in its own way contributed to the idea of river and an agrarian agro-industrial regime that has smoothly transited to the present time and context, post-globalization. And records show that even in the colonial period, a lot of exports had been happening in the Godavari districts, as it was called then.